Log into the presentation. If you haven't, let me put this back on presenter view. And in case there's any questions, start, continue, recent. And I don't know what that is. Okay, cool. We're going to try things along today. All right, so if you guys are not familiar, I'm Olmo Donado. I'm one of the founders for CodeRGB. I'm also the current president. I have over 10 years of experience in software engineering in general. I'm an electrical engineer by practice, actually. If you notice UCLA, it's been a dreadful day yesterday about what things that are going on. Bolter Hall was where I learned, my master's degree. And coincidentally, the student that was involved was a graduate student. So I made a quick comment, and I'll just speak a little bit about it, is that it's senseless, basically. Regardless of the difficulty that somebody has to go through in life, that should never be an answer. But anyway, I'm big on open source, big on community development, big on entrepreneurship, philanthropy. That's why I'm involved in this team. I used to work for Google. People keep dropping that on people that I meet, but it's been a great experience going through that. And if you have any questions on that, let me know. I can tell you more about it. My core technology is JavaScript and PHP. Those are my fan favorites, but really name it and I probably touched and dabbled in with it. If you need to contact me or follow me, etc., those are basically the link. My username, my alias is IB Olmo. And it's not like ghetto IB Olmo, but it's more International Baccalaureate Olmo. But anyway. Today we're learning about Google Analytics. Why is it important? How is it that we installed it, and how do we capture the events? And then finally, it's about actually looking at the reporting of the data and getting a sense of what to do with it. The number 3 will probably be a little bit lacking, and it might be a little bit broad. But I think at the point that we get there, we might already be ourselves tired of hearing and talking. So it might be better at that point for you guys to ask me questions about reporting, and I can probably answer questions. We'll be using live data directly from our websites, CodeRGB, jobs, etc. So we'll have actual numbers. And if there's anything that you guys are interested in knowing, say maybe how many people from Mexico are watching our YouTube videos, etc., we can actually look into that. Warning though, that this is a 101, so just quick overview, and there are some technical things that I will go over just because they're required and they're important for you guys to know. I know that it was a bump in the road when I started, and it might be helpful for you guys to know that right now. But really, if you're going to do this for commercial needs for your business, etc., then I encourage you to either get along with us. We can consult you and mentor you, because as a nonprofit, we'll do that for free. But if you are doing this full-time for a business, then we encourage you to go out there and find the local professionals to help you out. Now, why are we talking about analytics? Why are we talking about measurements? This is a good quote from James Harrington, which does a lot about Six Sigma and all those business processes. The basic of it is, if you can't measure it, you can't really control it. If you can't control it, then you can't really improve it. So if at any point in time, in whatever you're doing, it could even be self-help, right? Like you're trying to be more efficient in your daily life. If you're not measuring, you're not really knowing whether you're actually improving or not. So the reason that we're doing Google Analytics is because we are able to measure more than we currently have. Imagine back in the day when we started doing websites, we were taking a guess whether we actually were successful or not. This tool, that is a completely free tool, is able to give you all of that. With Google Analytics, you'll find what is the more popular content on your website. You'll find what's most engaging, which isn't necessarily most popular. You'll find whether your leads, your traffic from other sources, whether they're actually high quality or not. A lot of times, businesses, advertising, publicity, etc., they claim to bring you a lot of people to your website, which may be true, but those people are not actually doing anything. Are they bots? Are they just bot? They're two different words. But that's the idea is, are they actually doing something? So even though you might be getting 100 leads from one source, but the other 10 from another one, which one is actually converting? Which one is actually getting you money? Again, analytics provides that. You can see what are your best months out of the year, the best weeks, the best days, the best hours. It can even go down to the minutes if you wanted to, but that's too far for what my involvement is. But believe it or not, a lot of the services that we do and products that we do are seasonal. For instance, back in the day when we started CodeRGB, we really did think that summer times would be the worst times for us because the school would be out. But it turns for us is that because school is out, we have actually more people. So it's counterintuitive from what we had originally thought. And again, because we're able to track this, because we're able to see this, we are able to make more business, business progress. And finally, return on investment. It kind of goes along with the idea of the quality of leads, but at the same time, if I'm paying $100 for an ad, say on some random website locally or a magazine's website, etc., are they actually doing something? So you'll actually see that, and you can track it along the way. So what is Google Analytics? The simplest way that I can explain it is that it's a small script, a small little code that you put on your website that allows Google to have more information. You're literally giving Google all of this information of your user, of the visitor that is coming along. So if you're on your desktop, if you're on your phone, or you just on your service, your app, you are telling the Google, here's some information. The way that they use the terminology is it's an event. So an event could be open page, could be click button, it could be anything, but you're using this tool that they provide to give them all this information. And it's really a simple flow, as you see on the screen. It starts off from the website itself. This is just an example of the website, but it could be a server, an app, whatever. And it'll go to their server. You'll notify the server, this is who I am, this is my attributes, my dimensions, as they like to call them. And Google, one of the best things that they do is they put all of this information and they help you organize it in a nice little graph. And before, it used to be really difficult to pull this data out and do more with it on Excel, analytics, etc., or like higher order analytics. But now you can do a lot more interesting things, but we won't go over that right now, but just FYI, you're not going into proprietary system. Actually, Google and Google Analytics are actually very open, and it's really easy flow. You can use this not just for website, but you can use it for anything else. And hopefully, I can come across that in the future once we go to that slide. To get started is extremely simple. Like I said before, many times by now, I'd say is that it's completely free. Even if you don't have a website, go ahead and do this on your own time. You guys will have access to these slides later, so you can go back to them. But really, the main thing out of this thing, when you're creating it, just make sure that you put the central time zone, or whatever time zone that you prefer, and just be consistent with it across the views, which we'll go in a second. You set it up, and you get the following. This is the small little script, JavaScript, that you put in your website right before the end body tag. It could be anywhere on the page, really, if you ask me, but due to performance reasons, it's best to put it at the end. But if you just put it in the HTML, that's all you need. And make sure to put this in every single page. If you're using a framework like Laravel, Symfony, Zend, doesn't really matter, just put it in the master template that all your pages are inheriting from, for those that are techie or that are familiar with that. And if not, just go ahead and put it on every single one that you have. This allows you to track everything. Here's an example of what that looks like. Simple HTML, if you're not familiar, there's actually other classes that we've done that you can look back and see how that works. But just last month, actually, there was one. As you can see here, it's pretty standard. And then here in this section, if you can sort of see with the mouse, is that this is where the code goes. You copy paste it. There's really nothing that you have to do. It's simple as that. The moment that you do that, your computers, your browser, you're already giving them the information. Here's an example of that. I can actually do this really quick. So if you're not familiar, this is called CodePen.io. It's a simple online editor. It even has JavaScript and HTML as well. They're all here. Not really sure why they're opening up one at a time, but whatever. Here's a simple your website. It could be anything. Just quickly, image source, codergb.org, image logo. Well, yeah, that's fine. Does this one work? Probably not. Probably just logo. Yeah, there it is. Anyway, so it's just HTML down here. So every single time that somebody would go to this page, and you're more than welcome to do that, let me go to the right, just so that you can see that it's actually live. And I have a lot of clients here, so never mind that. There you go. So we'll go over what you're looking at in a second. So overview, and my screen. What's going on? Oh, intelligent. No, real time. There you go. Okay, so you can see here that actually people are on right now. Like right now at this moment in time, there are 2 people watching it. And you can know more information. The reason that they added the real time is because once you do have heavy traffic flow, and maybe you're making adjustments to the website on the fly, this is actually really useful. And for testing your code, this is really good as well. Anyway, you can see traffic sources are from CodePen. The content that is being used is right there. So anyway, you can get the idea. So this is live right now that there's 2 people there. Okay. So the moment that you add it, you're live. You could actually stop the presentation right now, and you're already maybe 50 to 60% better off than most people have online right now. If you ever get somebody to make your own website and they don't provide this, that's probably your red flag. Every single web developer that I know should be adding this automatically. It doesn't matter if they ask me or not, my client is I'm going to add it. It's more information. It's more that you can do with the person. So if they don't provide it, then you should question them, because are they hiding something? Like anyway, we're going to go over these best practices. A lot of the time we'll go over each one of these, and the reason for that is, again, road bumps. It'll be helpful for you guys to know this ahead of time, because you can copy paste that code and you would be already ahead of most people. But if you do these best practices, you'll be even further along than most people. So you'll have more information and better content, better data in the long run. Now, the first thing, and it's really simple, enable data collections. Due to privacy concerns, Google has been securing people's information, making it more anonymous. It sucks, to be honest. If I'm an e-commerce website, I want to know everything that is coming to me. I want to know their age range. I want to know whether they're coming from Facebook directly. I want to know what they're searching for to get to where I'm at. But Google lately, and I think it might be best practice in the long term for certain websites not to have all this information. But if you enable these two features, Google will give you back more of that information. So the remarketing will allow you to target people, if it doesn't sound too bad. If they ever come to your website and you do an ad that has your tags, then you know how sometimes you go to a website and then later down the road, maybe in Facebook or Google, one of the AdWords or whatever that has in there, you see again that website like Amazon, I know you're cool, but leave me alone kind of thing. Well, that's remarketing. And I won't touch upon it this time around, but it's actually a really powerful technique. The other one that is essential is the advertising reporting features. You're going to get more of their data. What they do is out of 1,000 people that come to your website, they'll give you 20% of the sample. So it's not all of it, but it's some of it. And it takes up to a certain threshold for them to start giving you some of that data. But the moment that you do, as a marketer, somebody that is reviewing all the information online, you actually know whether their age ranges, demographics, and so forth. So it's really powerful once you enable it. But again, most people don't even know that it's here. So make sure that's on. And you just have to go to if you're not familiar where this is, let me show you quickly. If you go to the admin section up here, and you go to the property settings, and go to the tracking code data collection, it's right there. Most of these screenshots, I'm not including the whole picture, but I'll at least define whether it's in the admin section or where exactly it is. And in this case, you can't really tell where it is, so that's why I wanted to point it out. So let me continue on in case anybody does have questions. Here you go. Link to the slides. Sure, 1 second. Let me put it on the Facebook real quick. Right there. So I guess that's paying off already, that question thing. All right, cool. Okay. All right. So we need to create multiple views. If you're not familiar with the concept of views, we'll go over it in a second. But that's a concept that Google Analytics has to define all the filtering, all the things that you could do per view. Instead of having one master view that maybe you make a mistake on, say that you don't want to include certain traffic, you can actually do that. Well, the bad thing would be that is if you add a filter that blocks out all the internet traffic, then your website is always going to say 000. So one of the first things you do is you create a raw feed that has no filters, nothing crazy. It's just literally everything that Google gives you. And it's just there for historic reasons. If you ever do make a mistake, say on your master or on your test view, it's okay, you have that data backed up. The reason that you want to do that is because the moment that you create another view, that view only has current and future data. So that's why you need to create these from the get-go, from the early on. And really the process is you have the raw, you have the test, and then you have the master. You leave the raw alone and you test, you play with it with the test one, and you know you might make a mistake on it, but you can fix that. And then you go master, you go to the production later down the road. It's just a simple little thing that, believe it or not, has saved me greatly. Because one of the first things, and here's the explanation about what's going on. If we remember the flow of the data, at some point Google takes all this data and starts presenting it in a view. So what you're doing is you're creating 3 views that one of them, the main view, has filters, has goals set up, and has different segments that are particular for that view. And again, if you make a mistake, you don't want that affecting all your data. You just want that affecting the one view. So any questions on views? I know that kind of went over that really quickly. Okay. So as far as master and test, like I said, those are the 2 that you're going to really mess with. And really, at this point in time, you can go ahead and just mess with master. You know, it's the beginning of time, really, if you haven't played with it. If you have some data that you had before, you can go ahead and, create the test. Go ahead and apply the filter, maybe wait 2-3 days or however long you think the events would take to see that. And then you go ahead and apply it to the master so you can see it down the road. Again, you don't want to lose that data. That's the number one thing. So again, the first thing is ensure the time zone. You don't want to get to the point that you're looking at, say, campaign data, and you're expecting like a radio spot to go off at 10 a.m. in the morning, but your time zone is Pacific time. So you miss the window of opportunity. You miss what you're looking for, so you don't know how to attribute it. So just make sure your time zone is correct. The second thing, and there's a lot of them, that's why they didn't bother to give you too many of them. The second thing is to actually set up filters. There are actually bots and not nefarious, but yeah, they're nefarious. There are nefarious services out there that are actually on purpose sending you fake data. One of them is a referral bot or a referral company. What they're doing is they're actually going to your website. They're not actually doing it, but what they're doing is they're spamming your Google Analytics. Why would anybody want to do that? It turns out that there's actually millions and millions of people that use Google Analytics. So in their heads, they're thinking, as long as I can get you to go to one of the referrals, then I'm making a profit. And believe it or not, it actually works. So one of the first things you do is you filter known bots. And Google does a lot of the filtering for you, but I don't know why, but it's not enabled by default. So here is right now an example of where it is that you need to enable that. And again, to show you where it is, it's right here on the view. So property view, raw, or I included it in the raw just because I guess I didn't in this case, but you can just, it's right there. Why doesn't Google enable it by default? I don't know, maybe they do want you to have all the raw data maybe, but again, enable it. Small little road bump, but believe me, it's...
That's in the view section?
Yeah, view, each one of your views.
Oh yeah.
So,
Admin, right?
exactly, so if you go to master, no, I don't have it, okay, so enable it. So it's a demo one, so I don't really care, but just make sure you have it on, because some of the websites that I had 100 so views per month, and then all of a sudden 1,000, 10,000. I was like, what's going on here? And I looked into it, and it was referral bots as well as just fake ones. They weren't even actually going to the website. They were just hitting it. So it'll mess up your data. So you have to protect yourself. Yep.
Admin, then where?
Yeah, admin up here, and then the view. See the column on the right? So you can select different views if you do have any other, or I think the default one's called all website views or something along those lines. So just select one of them, then go to view settings, and then it's right here on exclude all hits from known bots. Again, very simple, but a lot of people miss it. Now the second thing is, and you have two ways of doing this. Really, you should do both. What I do, it's called filtering internal IP and host name. Again, if I'm developing a website and my computer is going to it 10 times a day, 100 times a day, it's messing up my data. It's giving me fake data because I'm not really a consumer to that website, right? So what you need to do is filter your own machine from actually messing up the data. Very simple practice, but most people actually don't do it. Again, believe it or not, more than likely, if you're starting out a website and you're like, awesome, we have 100 hits already, more than likely than not, it's actually your developer that it's hitting it and hitting it and hitting it. So you need to filter it. And what that looks like, you can do it two ways. The way that I do it is the following. Let me get rid of this. Extensions, and then opt. There it is. It's called Google Analytics Opt-out add-on. I have it disabled, but if I enable it, any Google Analytics that is online somewhere, it actually opts me out. So if you're a big privacy person and you don't want to share your information anywhere else, you can actually download this and Google Analytics stops working for you. So, if you want to be hidden in that manner, you can actually do that. The second way is by creating a filter, and I won't go into it because I would rather you guys go through the guide because it goes specifically into details, but really it is as simple as you see here. And again, this might be the only thing that is annoying out of this, is that I have to keep enabling enabling that thing. But all you're going to do, again, in that same section, in that min section, and you have the view information, you're going to add a filter, and you can enable it whatever you want. And here you can see that it's predefined, exclude traffic from IP addresses, and 192, 168, and 11. That's the internal IP of your company. You can even do it by host name. So if you have a corporate website, corporate DNS, you can actually flush out all your local one. Again, you don't want to do this with your raw data because you might want to know that information. You might want to know, one of my clients used to be DHR. You might want to know how much traffic is actually coming in through DHR. You don't want to just blankly get rid of it. So a lot of these filters, you do it only in one view so that it's easy to work reporting tools. But you still want to know the data so that way you can tell internally, hey, this resource, yeah, it's public use, but this resource is actually used widely by the internal staff. So maybe you should invest in intranet tools, so that way people can go to exactly the information that they want really fast. Maybe some more information. So a lot of this is not just for like selling them a website, it's more about developing the business and the objectives, which we'll get to in a bit with the setup of the goals. And again, I kind of touched upon it a minute ago. This data, if you don't notice, is that it's very raw. It's coming at you with things on there that are supposed to be there, things that are not supposed to be there, and then things that are just need to be normalized. And by that I mean, sometimes the host name, the beginning part of the URL is not there. You're just going to see the end of it. So you can actually write a filter to bring it in so that every single, and you'll see it in a second, every single event has all that information. Again, go to the guide. It has an incredible amount of information, and it's a vast amount of information here. And finally, setting up the goals, which, there's a lot. So before moving forward, any questions so far? And let me double check over here as well. Let me do this thing. There we go. Continue. Let me see if there's any questions on here. Nope. Okay, cool. So, creating goals. Goals could be anything really. You can actually devise a JavaScript code that on a condition, you can actually tell the Google this happened. So for example, I sometimes don't really care about bounce rate. I don't really care about session length. I just want to know, are they reading all of my article, at least half of it? Are they moving down the page? Are they interacting with the website in that manner? Google Analytics, like I said, doesn't do a lot of that. It assumes if you want to, you'll do that. So one of the goals that you could set is, I want to know the percentage of users that I have that are actually scrolling at least half of my page. And again, that would take JavaScript. That would play a little bit with the API of the analytics, but it's totally possible. The landing page, a lot of people offer this service of creating a landing page for your AdWords, etc. But are they converting? Are they actually doing something? So you don't really care if they go to the landing page because you're paying for them to go there. What you want to know is, are they doing something more? So with goals, you can actually do something like ad number 1 landing page. Is this landing page getting them to the contact page? Is this getting them to the buy now page? Is this getting them to the swag page, etc.? So those are the questions. Now, I kind of briefly touched upon it, but on a website, if I have a contact form, I want to know that they started it and they finished it. So you can actually see the before and after. Does that mean, like, if they start a contact form but they didn't finish it, so you have a drop-off, you can actually tell that you have a good form or not. Again, most people don't track that, but it's really easy with this. Now, as far as video usage, viewership, etc., you can actually do that. We track that. We can actually see at what point in time people actually stop watching. So that tells you whether you're creating your content correctly, whether your quality is good or not, etc. So keep that in mind. And finally, I like this measurement. Are they there for more than 2 minutes? If you have a website that are just there to get information out, then that 2 minutes should probably be 15 seconds or something. Or more along the lines is, are they clicking on a certain link so that they can get out or whatever? But again, the engagement, can you quantify that? And again, as far as engagement, there's also loyalty. In the Rio Grande Valley, I have noticed, because I have access to a lot of different websites, that the engagement and the loyalty of a person is very, very seldom. It doesn't happen very often. And that sometimes is because I think our culture in the Valley is a little lacking as far as repetitiveness, going to websites and touching upon it. But at the same time, the websites themselves and the actual content are not engaging enough. So again, you need to track that, you need to follow that and work with it. And finally, files downloaded. Believe it or not, just because you link a PDF doesn't mean that that's the end of the road. You actually want to know whether they downloaded. Are they the same person downloading it multiple times? Are you capturing their information? Again, all this stuff. And again, there's a whole guide on each one of these. There's 4 of them. There's destination kind of tracking. There's event type of tracking. And there's conversions as well as flow. So like pathways of people that are going. So you can actually see if people go homepage, contact, and then they go to person's profile. And you can do the opposite way. You can say profile page to product page, because maybe they touch upon it in the contact page, or maybe you have a button or an ad to a certain page, and you can see how all of that works out. A goal setting up is really simple. To give you a reference of what we're looking at is this. Right now we're talking a lot about administrative things, but really if you go to the home section, and I have way too many things here. There's one. Okay. Anyway, if you go to the reporting section, what you're looking at right now is, actually we're still in the admin section, now I'm thinking about it. Here we go. So the reference is admin and goals, and you can create a new goal right here. And what you're looking at here is this. And present view, and again, continue. It should probably reduce the number of clicks. Okay. So to set up a goal, there's 2 ways you can do it. They actually have templates. So again, a lot of people do this all the time. I don't like the templates just because I'm an advanced user. I just want to get to what I need to do. So I like to use custom. So the custom one allows me to just get to what I need to do. So here I want to know when people get to the finish of the contact page. And the destination is what I select. The next point is on my code, my either PHP or whatever kind of code you have. It can even be HTML if you wanted to. Once they land on the success page, then Google gets notified. It's like, okay, somebody got to the successful contact page, and you'll notice here it says funnel and value. The value could be monetary, right? For every person that says click here, buy now, $1 or something, you can put it there $1, and you can track the ads that you bought and the total sum that comes out of that. So if you put an ad for $4 on AdWords, And eventually you see at the end of the road, after a month-long session, you can actually see that if your value was $2 every single time this goal got accomplished, you can compare $4 versus 8, 10, 12, and you can actually see, okay, you know what, for every dollar that I spend on this ad, I'm making $5 out of it. So my return on investment on this is actually really good. Let me keep doing on this. But again, if you don't set up the value, you don't set up the different things that I mentioned, you're not going to be able to track any of that. So, and the funnel is actually really cool, because here what I like to do is funnel the contact. I didn't do it on this one, but they have to be coming from the contact page, the original one. Because imagine if somebody just randomly goes to that page, because it's possible, then you're going to get all these fake data. So again, it's about being smart about all of this. Another funnel could be homepage to the contact page. Again, is my layout working exactly how I want it to? And this is kind of like what I was alluding to as far as goals. This, just setting up a goal by random, is not at all good. A lot of times that happens. A client comes to me and says, you know, I want to attract the number of people that click on this house, or clicks on the form, the contact form for this page. And that's so vague and not targeted and not structured. You know, the business objective defines the purpose, defines why the website is around at all. Hopefully your designer, your developer asks you that question from the get-go. Because a lot of times people just want to have an ego boost about having a website. But that's not certainly the point of it. One of the first things you have to do is define what is the whole purpose of all of this. The second thing you do is you have all these purpose, and they could be in different columns, different reasons for having them. But at the end of the day, what is the bottom line, right? You want to sell more products. You want to improve your branding, your marketing. You want to improve the number of eyes that are seeing your options, etc. All of these define your metrics. So to sell a product, you want to know how many times they add a product. You want to know how many times they view a profile of a product. You want to see the number of the most popular items, etc. The checkout cart is actually, there's actually companies that just revolve around that metric. Because the checkout cart, there's a lot of what's called drop-offs, right? You add an item, but you forget about it. You never actually complete it. Why is that? So just answering that one question is actually very, very difficult. So most of the times what I tell my clients and people that I work with is, don't come up with a 50 goals or 100 things to do. Just do the one thing that is going to bottom line affect your business, improve it, and just focus on that, because as you'll see in a bit, there's actually too much information. You'll easily get lost. Once you come up with the metric that you're looking for, now you need to define what is the actual dimension or the attribute of that user or that visitor that is affecting that metric. So adding a product, was it their location? Was it their language choice? You know, maybe you have an English-only website and the only people that are actually buying are actually Spanish speakers. So you happen to be lucky that that Spanish speaker is from Monterrey, and Monterrey is heavy on English, whatever. So if you don't know that, you're missing out on that possibility. So again, use the dimensions to have an idea of how to target these people, how to improve your chances of improving that metric. And all of these are all tied in together. And again, I included a link on a really great website, Occam's Razor, and it's a great resource for you guys to learn all about the theory and the development cycle of all of this. It's really heavy-handed on all the stuff that needs to be involved. The See More. Does it not work or what?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Culture.net.
Yeah. Kajik, Avinash. Yeah. All right. Has anybody heard of Google Webmasters before? Okay, one person. 2 persons, cool. All right, so if Google Analytics is for understanding how people interact with your website, Google Webmasters is how people are searching for your website. So anybody heard of SEO, search engine optimization? Okay, good number, a little bit more. All right, search engine optimization is because there's probably more than one person trying to do the same thing as you are. And if your website is not structured or developed in a way that Google, Yahoo, Bing, etc., how many there are, if they're not able to understand your website or really, I guess a better way of saying it is, if they don't know which user is best to go to your website, they will never put you on top. That's why everybody tries to go SEO heavy, black hat, white hat, doesn't really matter. Like your number one thing is, I want to be on the top. I want to be the first result. Well, how do you measure that? And how do you relate that measurement to what you're actually seeing on your website? Because a lot of times people come to you as a business and say, I'll get you on the number one spot on the web. What you don't know is that if you do a search locally, you'll probably come up number one, because Google is smart about local targeting, right? Like you look for code RGB, you're gonna look at our website. But if you were in San Francisco, we're not gonna be number one. So how do we work with all of that? How do we get our position higher and higher? Well, the one tool that we use a lot, it's called Google Webmasters. There are a lot of third-party services that provide more information than Google Webmasters, but this is free and it's all-inclusive. It actually integrates with a lot of great things. So in a way, I'm giving you guys two tutorials, one on analytics and one on Google Webmasters. And if you're not familiar, I totally encourage you to start signing up. The stuff that you see on the right is actually CodeRGB's Webmaster results. So you can actually see there were 11,000 impressions, so people that actually saw our link. They didn't go to the website, not necessarily, but there were actually 11,000. Out of those 11,000, only 979 actually clicked on it, which is actually pretty good still, but that gives you an idea. And our average position, believe it or not, is 16, so it's not that great. But you can actually narrow it down by country, by location, and you'll probably see that our position would improve because we're in the Rio Grande Valley to number one. But again, are you, as a web developer, are you as a consumer client, are you familiar that this was tool available? Now, Google Webmasters, you can actually see how Google sees your website, and they'll actually tell you how to improve it. They'll actually tell you, give me this information in this manner, and I'll actually give you more points. I'll give you higher ranking. Again, do you know what your score is right now? Let me go to it right now so you can actually see that. And I have to admit that I was very confident about my work or whatever, and at the time that I did it, and you can see I do this a lot for a lot of people. At the time that I did it, I didn't have any errors, but then I guess I haven't done it in a while. But here you can actually see that there's actually errors that it tracks, and this is the last 90 days. So you can actually tell you what is wrong with your website. So you can actually improve it. Every single time that there's something wrong, they actually notice that, and they will actually hurt you in ranking. And here's the appearance thing that I was talking about. I don't have structured data, but I should have. I could add. That means events. That means albums, videos. I could be more structured about it. Rich cards are when you're searching for like a video on TED Talks or whatever, you actually see the video on the search results. We could add that, but we haven't done that. So you can actually do that. So if you have a startup that works with images, audio, videos, you can actually be more friendly with Google. And believe me, they want you to do that. So what better way to be number one on the spot than by just giving them what they want? So, and here's the HTML improvements that I was talking about. We have low numbers. Trust me that I've seen websites that are just ridiculous, and I could actually point to them right now, but let's not hammer on them. But yeah, short meta descriptions on most of these, and that's fine. Duplicate meta, these are probably the ones that are hurting, is the duplicate meta descriptions, but whatever. And site links and so forth. So we'll let you guys mess with that later on your own time. Review search traffic. So here's the search traffic on our end, search analytics. So there's not much information there, but you can add all of these metrics up here. And you can actually see how the improves throughout the week, throughout the time. And you can actually do dates that are far longer than just 28 days. So here you can see I did an update. And you can see that this is when we launched Boot. There was a huge uptick. So again,
What was Boot?
the bootcamp, the coding school. So, and we did a press release, so it was heavy. And you can see what queries people are actually looking for. They do it by name, community loan. This is Brownsville, so school for coding, that took one. Oh, that's great. But it's right there, actually, the update. Boom. When we did a website update. So anyway, have fun with it, play around with it. It's a lot of information that most people didn't even know they had at their reach. Let's see. Yeah, and so crawl errors and fetch as Google is actually really powerful. You might design a really nice website, but if Google can't understand it, like literally as a program, then it's worthless. So just keep that in mind. Sitemaps are obviously very important. Less important now because they're really good at finding all your pages, but they're still very important. All right, so we were talking about Google Analytics. Google Webmaster is really good on its standalone, and it gives you a lot of information. And actually, before I move forward, there's one thing that you should do before I forget. I didn't include it, but other resources, go to Page Insights, Page Speed Insights. If you click on that, it'll actually analyze your website, and it'll tell you how good is it. So let's try CodeCamp RGB. See how I didn't write that one, so I'm kind of curious about how that one does. I wrote the code for our website, so yeah, 55, and it's red on both desktop. Oh, 22%. Yeah. Okay, so yeah, anyway, you can tell that Google actually really does care about this stuff. Let me try the jobs. I know, sorry, I'm probably wasting time here, but just haven't thought about it. That one I didn't code. I used a template, but I'm kind of curious about how well it does. Okay, we can improve it then. Anyway, they give you all the details on how to improve it, so don't waste your time. Actually do it. And if you're hiring somebody to do it, you can tell them that I'm not going to pay you until you get this up to 90%. So what better way to get them to work? I'm really big, if it's not clear by now, I'm really big on accountability. A lot of times somebody locally, and I'm not saying that's wrong, but a lot of times locally they take the easy way out just so that they can go on to the next client. I encourage everybody to set the standards really high. The moment that we do that, we are actually allowing our community to be more valuable, right? So the reason I am being honest, I am putting out there all these tools because when you do have a startup, when you do have a company, you don't want to wait for 1 month, 2 months, 3 months down the road to realize all the work that they did is not that great. You want to do the investment ahead of time and have them make sure that they're performing. So just keep that in mind. Anyway, to connect to Google Analytics is very simple. This is on the Google Webmasters. If you click on that cog up here on the right, the settings cog, you'll see the Google Analytics property. It'll show you a list of Google Analytics properties that you can connect to. Here I just have the one example, and you just save it. That's it. It'll connect. It'll ask you for one more detail, I think, but it's really straightforward after that. And if you want to test it to confirm that it works, you can actually see it here. You can, on the left side, this is the admin view for that one property, the one property for that. And you can actually see that Google Webmaster was connected to both the master and the raw. Again, put all the data together, just give it all to in there. And then you can see in the Search Console section in the acquisitions, which we'll go over in a second, we'll have all of that information there. So you don't have to go to the separate website to review everything. It'll actually like merge it all together, so you don't have to jump back and forth. Trust me, it used to be much more headache, but now it's nice for you guys to just work with. And again, this brings you more data, more dimensions for you to work with. If you're not doing this, you really don't have a lot of tools ahead of you. All right, we've been focusing primarily on the websites and web apps. All of this is JavaScript, HTML. But believe it or not, Google Web Analytics could be used on Android, iOS, Unity, and universally anywhere. They opened up the platform so that you can use it anywhere at all. As long as it has internet connection, you can actually use it. So you had mentioned Arduino, Anthony, that you're collecting people as they're passing by. You don't actually have to have your own backend on analyzing how many people are actually coming through. You can have the Arduino ping the Google Analytics server, the collect one, I'll show you in a second, and you can track one person, 2 persons, 3 persons. And you can actually see the graphs develop as they go along. You can keep it real time too, so you can put it up on a dashboard on a TV or something. You can see people walking on through the trail. So anyway, you can have fun with it. So On Android, there's a couple of steps before this, but it really is as simple as this. It's one line of code, and it says tracker send, and you build an event that you want to build, and you set the category of an action that somebody did, and then the actual action called share. So somebody's sharing a button here, and you build it and you send it. So it sends it out to the Google Analytics. Yeah. And it'll come up to the stuff. That's it. On iOS, is as simple as adding 2 lines. These 2 lines are actually, I'm not a big fan of Objective-C, so you mess with it. But yeah, anyway, it's really simple. 1 line of code, nothing more than that. And this is what I'm really excited about. Code is code. It'll do what it needs to do. But at the end of the day, you can use your phone, like we can play it right now. It's a simple API, and you can play with it. Here it's called a hit builder. And here I've already done it before. I've built the parameters. If you're not familiar with the terminology, you have a URL, kind of like google.com, and you have all these parameters on the side that you're passing it to the server. So some of these are really simple. The V is for version. The T is for the type. So there's plenty of types in here. Event, page view, transaction, so forth. And yeah, so you can just change it if you wanted to. The TID is the tracker ID. Remember the ID that we created a while back? That's the same thing. You're not changing anything. The client ID is just something that you provided. Like you have to create an application on the Google developer console. I'm not going to go over to those details, but it's really simple to set up. And then the DP is the data path. So the data path, you can define it as however you want, but just validate that it works. The hit is valid. And then I'm going to show you here, go to the reporting section of this thing, go to the real time, and see how we're doing. There's 0 persons. I'm going to go to the events, 0 events. I'm going to go ahead and send the hit to Google Analytics. So it looks like I'm doing JavaScript, but it's not. I'm going to show you the network here. Get rid of this, and I'm going to click it. And there it is, collect.php, or sorry, not PHP, collect, Google Analytics collect. And it has all the parameters right here, form data. Let me make that a little larger. So all the form data is right there. And you can see in the event that there was one event right there. Okay, so hopefully, I can even do this actually, I'm thinking about it, is copy this, go to terminal, can't be opened. No, okay, it's fine, go to the old school. All right, so make this a little larger. wget, if you're not familiar, is just basically, or curl, you could do curl too, but HTTP, I think it's S, could be wrong. What is it? Google Analytics.com/collect. So those are the parameters that I needed. I'm just going to collect it, and no doubly correct. So then, whoops. So now the shortcut. All right, I believe I can do curl L like that. There you go, done. So now I go back here. Don't need to refresh, but it's faster this way. And there should be another one coming up here, but if not, believe me that it does work. Demo gods. Or I can just do this actually. I can go to the website here. So I'm just doing a get right there. And there it is. That's actually the one that was a moment ago. And then this one was happening just less than a second ago when I launched that one. So anyway, you can see that it's all HTTP. Again, very technical term, but very low level. So you can do it in anything, PHP, C#, .NET. There is no library behind it. You can just use it. And it's a really powerful concept. So I use it in the back end on our servers. I use it when I'm developing apps, I use it anywhere. I mean, like I said, I can even use this for personal purposes. You can connect this to a, like an Amazon Dash where you push the button. So maybe I press the button when I'm hungry or something. That way I can track when I'm like craving a sugar crush or something. Again, it's data that you can mess with. Let's see. All right, who's tired? At this point in time, I'm going to do live demo of all the reporting. I'm not really going to invest too much time because I could really go over too much of it. So instead, I'm just going to go over each one of these sections on the left and kind of give you an idea of how I use it and the best practices that I do and how I work with it with my clients. So you've already seen the real-time section. This is really useful for testing, as you saw. I don't have to wait a day to see it. It's right there. All of this is, I don't think you're going to see anything, actually, because I just created it today. So I'm going to change this over to Code RGB. Well, actually, we said the jobs was one of them, right? And I think I posted it yesterday, so we should see something already happening from yesterday. Whenever you go to any of these sections, all the things that are up here are actually really useful. They're not the best, but they're already useful. So you don't have to learn a lot already from the reporting tools. You can already start using it. So here you can see how many people have been active one day. That's not too exciting, but you can see 7 days. So there's actually quite a bit of number of people on the jobs website that are continuously going back to it. How about 14 days? So pretty good number of users. And then you can see that we have a pretty good following, basically, between 14 days and so forth. You can actually create cohorts using the cohort analysis, which is right here. And what cohorts mean is you can get a group of people, and you can see what they do in 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, and so forth. This is really powerful with app development, because you can have a person download your app, but who cares? Are they coming back? Are they doing something? Are they doing the same thing? When you create a new feature, do you see an uplift, so forth? So you can create all these cohorts. I personally...
This tracks individual users, so like for e-commerce, I can track.
You do it by dimension. So here it's acquisition date. You can do it by cohorts, like week long. So you see that I included more people within it. But you can change all these things if you wanted to. But yes, you can, not necessarily one user, because you can actually do it by user, but you have to create a filter that says IP of the person you added to the dimensions.
But, I mean, on there you can track how many people are coming back.
Yeah, that one is here. That one is on acquisition. So
what's the difference between what's the difference between returning visitor and cohort?
A cohort is you define it. You're defining the group. Whether it's a day-long group, like if you had some people show up on one day, that's one cohort. If you get like the one day, those people that showed up on those days, those are your cohort. That's your group. If you define it by a week, then all the week-long people are your cohort. Like the returning visitor, it's like you define it by this metric right here. You see that? So you can define it as 1 month, you can define it as 1 day. But a cohort is about, like, you define it every single day. Those are cohorts. Does that make sense? It's a different way of looking at it. It actually is quite new, and there's more involved in it than just that. But you can see here that users, May 26, I had 3 users. May 27, I had 2 users. So that's one cohort. And then you can see as 1 day passes, where are they at? Are they still engaging? One day passes, are they engaging less? The same users. Okay? So you're seeing a performance trend versus a performance metric. That's why you see this bar graph, basically. Day 0, all of them are engaged, basically. But at day 1, this cohort, this day, comparing it to the other day, what does that look like? Okay? And you can change it by week as well. So now you say, well, what did I do April 17 to the April 23? And why is those users apparently more active that second week versus, does that make sense? Because you have 1 week of these users, why is their second week different from the second week of the other cohort? Why is their experience different? It's kind of like, this is really good when you have a flow of, when somebody signs up to your website, you send them an email. And whenever they go to the website once and they set up a checkout page, like they set up a product, you track that, right? And then you send them a reminder 1 week later that says, why haven't you bought what you wanted to buy? Or not, once you bought this, have you thought about this? All of these concepts about following up with them, keeping them engaged, is because of the cohort analysis from all these companies. That's why you see Twitter sending you that your friend has liked the tweet, is because they want to re-engage you. Because the worst thing is the trail off, like you can see here. If I was smart about the jobs page, the moment that I capture you online and you create a resume, next week from now, I should send you an update that says, here are the current jobs that are there. But I'm not. But if I do that, though, you can see that the cohort of that 1 week person versus the comparison with the other cohort, those people will jump up because they're more engaged. So you're trying to evolve your marketing approach by using cohort analysis. Make sense? Yeah, it's a big topic. But it is, you're comparing days, weeks against other weeks, and you're looking at it as comparing them in performance, the different metrics. So here's user retention, but it could easily be page views. And not enough columns, whatever. By days, I think that would work. Yeah. So here's page views, and you can see here that most people are on 1, and anyway, you can kind of go with it on different metrics, but it's a heavy-handed topic. Let me move forward. The things in audience in particular that you want to look at is understanding your user. That's the primary purpose of this. Like if you want to look at it as column or different tabs, this is the audience tab. So you can learn about their, well, we might not see too many here, but apparently we do. You can see what their age range is. You can see their genders as well if it's available. Some of them are, some of them are not. Yeah, okay. Primarily males that are coming to the website. Their interests you can look into. I like to look at their language actually. Are we primarily getting people with, well, see, you can see here that we have some users that might not be that interesting. So one thing that I like to do is a segment. Segment and United States. I only care about United States users for my purpose. You can add Mexico if you wanted to, but this way I can remove the other users. So remove this one. It's only 94% of the total data that I have, but then I don't have to, my data gets clean, right? Up here, these are called segments. You can create as many as you want, and you can add as many. So Spanish speakers, apply. And now you can compare, well, there's very little, but there's...
How does it tell what you speak? How does it tell what you speak?
Your computer?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The setting, if it's in English or in Spanish?
Exactly, yeah. The Google, when you go to the website, it'll grab all that information. It'll grab your IP, your location, location by proximity, but it'll actually guess what city you're at. So you can see that here, location. And again, I leave United States and Spanish, but it's useless. But people that are from Germany, I don't know about that one, that's weird. Probably because they're German but Spanish. Let me get rid of this other segment. Let me get rid of all of the segments actually, just so that we can see all the traffic. And I might switch over to the other website that has a lot more data. Hold on. This one. Yeah. So you can see the United States for our website has over 3,500 people that showed up in the last month, basically. So you can drill down further. United States, Texas, and then here's the Rio Grande Valley. And you can see that we're popular as well as this month, or the past month rather, I did actually go to Austin a couple of times. So you can actually see progression. Are people actually visiting? Me passing out my cards are actually working or not? So yeah, anyway, you can actually see people's locations, and even drill down further, you can actually see in McAllen, you can do a second dimension and say host. And there you can actually see, and no, not that one. Well, anyway, I wanted to find out what, yeah, let's go with gender, just out of curiosity. There you go. So this won't give you all the data, but 38% of our market is female, 61% are males. You can drill down further and further. Again, all this data is already provided because of all the work that we did. More than likely, it'll take you about 2 weeks to gather enough so you can start playing with it, really utilizing those goals. But a lot of this is available already. New versus returning, all of this is available. And like I said, it's very standard. So I'm just going to finish up on audience. The next one is acquisition. This one is really powerful because it really will tell you how well you're doing on things. We're primarily Facebook and apparently as well as direct, and organic search. So let me see. Here's our social graphs, how we're doing. We haven't paid for anything. We usually never do. And there you go, Facebook, 87%. We do have Reddit, we do have Twitter, but we don't focus highly on that. And you can tell which ones are the most popular pages. Again, all this information is just click, 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 and play with it. And what else from this? Landing pages. What I like to do with the landing pages is I like to change this to this one. And on this one, I like to change it to the average session duration. And then I like to, yeah, it's fine, sessions. So what this tells me is that a lot of people are really interested in the Boot website because they were there for a very long period of time. Another one is the main page. So I know that the main page is actually being used a lot. So, and you're comparing this to the site average. So the site average, you can actually see site average, where are you? Anyway, we'll get to it in a second, but the site average is compared right here, and there it is, average duration, 4 minutes, so forth. So you can tell how long people are staying there. Again, could be really useful if you're using that. Lastly, the one that I'm really interested in you guys reviewing are the behaviors. And on this one, you can actually see their flow. This is a really powerful feature that you can really drill down on each of your websites, what is happening. So it looks like a lot of people went to the Boot website, but a lot of them dropped off. 1.3 thousand of them actually. What happened there? So we can focus on this one and find out what is going on there. A large portion of them came from the home page, so because I added that banner in the top. And some of them are coming from the blog. And we can actually find out what is going on in that traffic. Explore traffic. And in this one, you can start figuring out. So let me go to their site content, all pages. And then change this page to Boot students. And now I'm only going to get data for that page. And the other dimension that I want to do is exit page. So, oh, and also the entrance page. But anyway, that's fine for now. You can tell that people that came to that page, they ended up going back to the home page, or what were they doing with it, as well as you can see their wait time. I think their time average. Or their source, rather. That's actually more interesting. And then percentage exit. There we go. So this is fake, so I'm not going to care about that one. But some of them came through the mobile. They didn't care about it. Some of them came through the monitor. And you can even look at query, search query. Okay, none of them said it, but you can actually go back to the Webmasters and find out what the heck is going on there. Again, so you can do a lot more with it than I'm showing you right now, but it's all available. And really, it just takes you playing with it. Here's the exit pages, which ones are the most leaving. And we already knew that Boot was mostly the ones that were leaving. But you compare that to other dimensions. Their browser, are they mobile? Are they English, Spanish speakers? Actually, let's look at their language real quick. Yeah, look, 70% of them are, let's see, here we go, Spanish. So yeah, because they're Spanish, a large portion of them ended up leaving. So that means that we could have captured them more if we just had a Spanish language in there. So food for thought. Any questions on this? I know I've dragged on, but anything else? Yep.
So you use that on the logo click?
Say again?
Logo click instructions
The logo click?
on the website?
What about it?
Following directions, did you use that analytics on it?
Yeah, or I'm confused.
Yeah, because on the website you have to put, on the bottom page, click on the logo.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
So you do that next
Oh, yeah. Well, the thing is that I asked you guys to do that yesterday. And let me double check if we have any of that data. So let me check. Jobs. So landing pages. And the home page is a landing page, but I want to know the source. And actually the referral path. Not set. Oh. Full refer. Okay, so most of them came from Facebook. I'm not interested in anybody else except for the homepage. Ends with that. Oh well. Exactly matching. Okay. 6% for comparison. Okay. Okay, so it looks like 6 people went from the Facebook page and clicked on it. You can see it there. And then they clicked on the logo. We can look at the exit. Or I don't think let's see. Exit 2. Well, the second thing I can do is this. Code RGB, master, and then the referral. Cancel. Yeah. Can't get it. I'll have to play with it. I didn't get a chance to do that part. I was working on this all day. Acquisition, all traffic, sources needed, referrals. Oh, this is not including. There we go. Let me do this. Yeah, let me do that. Yeah, this doesn't show any referrals from the job site, so I'm not sure. I think it might have been too late because again, it takes 24 hours. But yeah, I'll send an update. I'll see how many people are referred from the job site. Any other questions about all this? I know it went like overview about everything, but it's really as simple as that. The hardest part is setting up correctly, and then after that is really just playing with each of these reports and finding things that are most interesting to you. A lot of the times, people that are in this business of developing your metrics is they're understanding your business need with what could be captured and understood. It's a balancing act about how much do you want to invest on both ends. And my advice is to find the middle of the road. A lot of the times, you want to track everything, but it's too much data. That's why I say just focus on one thing at a time. So, anybody else? All right, cool. Well, thank you guys. Please enjoy the pizza. There's plenty. If you are 21 and older, please enjoy the beer. They are provided by LNF Distributors. So thank you to our sponsors, LNF Distributors, as well as for the pizza with Pizza Hut Regional and the RGB. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.